Thank you, Jerry. How about we do some fingers for Jerry? Hi, everybody. This is Chris Creeder. I am your virtual MC for the day. We are all on mute because it'll make it the best way for all of us to hear our featured guest today. And I'm going to ask Michael to kick us off in 1 second once I find him in an amazingly long list of people that we have online. So thank you all for being here. Michael, we should be able to hear you now. All right, so bear with us. We're going to make sure that we do this because everything got re-alphabetized. So hold on a minute. That was probably the wrong Michael. Michael, we should be able to hear you now.
Hello? Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. Oh, that should begin with the chimes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Stengel, and I am co-chair of our Sunday Services Ministry. Welcome to the first virtual service of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. We're so glad that each of you are able to join us this morning, and together in community, we can ensure that social distancing does not mean a social disconnect. Our weekly services are more than just a gathering of our physical bodies. It is the forming of a sacred time that we make together. Whether you're well-versed in the technology of teleconferencing, or this is your first venture, we welcome you. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, whatever your theological stance, whatever your heritage, whoever you are, and whomever you love, we welcome you. You can learn more about us on our website and Facebook page. We encourage you to share our Facebook page and reach out to others who may be isolated at this time and might benefit from the spiritual connection that is typically available by walking through our open doors on Sunday morning. Again, welcome to the UU Congregation of Danbury, where we welcome all in a spirit of compassion, inquiry, and service.
So at this time, we also have some virtual guidelines that we wanted to make sure we went over on this important day. We will keep muted, as we said. I know we'd love to hear each other, but we did test this out with a big rehearsal yesterday, and it is optimal if we can keep people one at a time. The other thing to know is that with the webcams, I know some people are having some challenges on getting texts and chats in here. Feel free to chat with me throughout. There are options depending on what kind of device you're on. You can go above your webcam view, and there's a bunch of little squares for some people that'll get you what's called gallery view. There's also speaker view. It looks like one square, or in other cases it says speaker view. So when we hear one person at a time, you may be able to hear that person. In the case of Jerry, when Jerry plays, we tested, and it is actually best for him to be on a phone line, which is a 347 number. So you may want to select gallery view when we hear the fabulous music, and feel free to sing from the comfort of your homes. I know I was during the rehearsal yesterday, and I think all of you will enjoy that today. At times, I'm going to have text on the screen. So right now, you can choose to minimize your view. You can click and drag it of your webcam so you can see some of the content on the screen. We're actually going to have the lyrics to the hymns so that we can sing along and you can read along on the screen. I don't have the dancing ball like the olden days, but we'll still be able to sing from the pages of the hymnal. And again, feel free to chat with me. I know some people are saying we can only see Jerry or not Michael. All of that is up to you. Your webcam view is on your computer. It is nothing that we have control over. So feel free to click and drag or play with your webcam view so that you can see everyone. That is the trickiest part of Zoom, is that you get to control what you see. I won't be able to do that. I am going to work to try to spotlight some folks or unspotlight some folks, and maybe that is something that we have going on. So I will make sure that we don't have that in play later on. So we just heard from Michael, and I'm going to go on mute and ask everybody to join us now in our first song. Oh, I didn't do my important thing, which is to introduce Diane, and I'm so sorry. There's a lot going on my screen, so thank you for being flexible. Diane, you can see in the corner, is our fantastic host, guest minister today. And Michael, did you want to do the introduction of Diane? Yeah, oh, hold on, I got to bring you off mute. This is what we couldn't test with so many people on, so this is wonderful. There's so many of you. Michael, you should be ready to go.
Okay, great. Today we welcome Diane M. Daniels as our service presenter. Diane M. Daniels is a born and bred Detroiter who relocated to Connecticut to be with the love of her life, her husband of 30 years, Aaron L. Daniels. They have 3 grown children and 1 adorable grandson, and are pet parents to rescued greyhound named Duke. Diane joined the Unitarian Universalist Church of Norwich in 1997 and has served in multiple positions, including president of the congregation. In the fall of 2016, Diane enrolled in the Master of Divinity program at the Star King School for the Ministry and is currently serving a 2-year internship at the Unitarian Society of Hartford, Connecticut. Welcome, Diane.
Great. So my son is asking me to point out Miss Diane is right over here on the screen. So Colin is with me today, so thank you all for your patience. At this time, I know I jumped the gun before, we all would love to sing along with Jerry. So this is the hymn. Everybody should be able to see it on your screen right now. Jerry, just give me a minute to make sure I can bring Michael onto mute. I'm going to mute all and then bring you off mute. So bear with me. This is the time. It'll take a little bit of time. I just love how many people are all scrolled on. So Jerry, can we hear you?
Will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Thank you so much, Jerry, so much. I know we had some voices going on here. I'm going to now introduce Diane, who will bring us to, Diane's on the top. Colin's helping me out here. Right here is Miss Diane.
Oh, there's two then.
Okay, thank you. So Miss Diane with our opening words.
Good morning, everyone. Our opening words are found at number 578 in the gray hymnal, if you happen to have one with you. And if you don't, I'm going to read them for you. Thank you all for joining us on this historic and precedent-setting moment. This is entitled The Great Lesson, and it was written by Olympia Brown. We can never make the world safe by fighting. Every nation must learn that the people of all nations are children of God and must share the wealth of the world. You may say, this is impracticable, far away, could never be accomplished, but it is the work we are appointed to do. Somehow, sometime, somewhere, we must teach this great lesson.
Thank you. I am just making sure I have the right Diane. We have a lot of people with different, thank you, Diane, for muting your own line. And thank you all for the wonderful comments. At this time, I'm going to ask Michael, the right Michael this time, once I find him and bring him off mute, and then we will do our chalice. So if everybody can get your chalices ready, I want to see your chalices up in the window. And I don't know if anybody has the ability to take a screen capture, expand all these, and take a screen capture of how many wonderful, I can't do it while I'm hosting, but there are so many. I've expanded my whole screen. Oh, look, there's someone like yours, Colin. There's so many beautiful chalices that are up right now. So Michael, take it away.
All righty. You can join with me as we say the words. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its light. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek and speak the truth in love, to help one another and celebrate life. And we can move right into our children's focus. And if you'd like to join with me, we'll raise our U's up and join in our children's affirmation. We are Unitarian, Universalists. We are people with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. Today we have a story called The Girl Who Saved Yesterday by Julius Lester and illustrated by Carl Angel. When the people of the village sent the girl into the forest, it was the trees as ancient as breath who took her in and raised her. She loved living with them, but now they were asking her to leave. We need you to return to your village and save yesterday, Wonderboom, the most ancient of the ancient trees, told her. All the yesterdays, added Gloomy Night, whose limbs were thick as sorrow. Trees do not speak with words, of course, but like winds whispering to the clouds. Silence, for that is what the trees had named her, did not understand what she was supposed to do. How do I save yesterday? She wanted to know. There was a loud clattering of limbs and branches as the trees shook themselves from side to side. They didn't know either, but Silence had learned that trees remember everything and that they always tell the truth. When Silence had fallen asleep, Thunder Snow moved quietly through the night until he came to the forest just outside the village that had sent her away. He lay her gently on the soft yellow pine needles at the foot of a tree that had been made ill by yesterday. Thunder Snow hoped Silence could find the way to save this tree and all the other trees yesterday had sickened. It was late afternoon when Silence awoke. She looked around and saw the road that led to the village. She did not want to go back there, but she knew she must. When she reached the center of the village, Her eyes immediately saw the mountains, which loomed like a memory no one could recall. She had been a baby when she was found at the base, with no one to call mother or father. She was certain they lived at the top of the mountain, and every day she tried to climb up there. The villagers told her she would anger the mountain if she did, and it would send down fire and destroy everything and everyone. When she refused to obey them, villagers felt they had no choice but to take her deep inside a distant forest and leave her there. The ancient trees there had heard her frightened heart and adopted her, but now they had sent her back. The villagers came out of their homes and stared at the girl. Her dark skin shone bright as the blackness which surrounds the stars and makes them gleam. She was taller now and stood as still and proud as a tree, but they knew who she was. Why had she come back? Before anyone could ask, sun began sliding from the sky like a disappointment that would never be redeemed. Afraid, people hurried to hide in their homes, but no one thought to warn Silence that she would die if she stayed outside on this particular night. Quickly, darkness so thick settled on the land that Lion stuffed his roar back into his chest and ran to hide in a cave. Elephant raised her trunk and opened her mouth to trumpet a call, and then rumbled away, while Monkey scampered to the top of the highest tree and covered her eyes with her hands. The stillness, as deep and mysterious as the space between the beats of a heart, came down from the mountain. Fear quivered inside Silence, like leaves being pelted by hard rain. Suddenly a redness rose from the mountain and swelled until it filled the sky. Silence wanted to run from the arrows of light coming at her, but to her surprise, she felt only a wind as thin as a raindrop as they passed around and through her and into the village. The houses trembled like eyelashes struggling to hold back tears, while the piercing screams and sobs grew louder. She recognized those sounds. They were the same ones her heart had made when the villagers had sent her away. They were the sounds of a heart that was not loved. Finally, the time came for Morningstar to awaken Sun. The lights rose into the air and hovered over a village in a tattered sheet of dimness. Then they drifted upward as reluctantly as the last flower of summer drops its petals. Silence knew now why the trees had sent her back and what she had to do to save yesterday. When the people of the village slowly came outside, they were surprised to see that she was still alive. "I need a scythe," she said before any of them spoke. After a moment, the ironmaker went to his shop and gave her one. With a wide and smooth swing of the long hooked blade, Silence began cutting a path through the tall grasses that grew on the mountainside. She worked with a steady rhythm and with the strength of trees as ancient as night. Sun had scarcely climbed to the navel of the sky when she reached the top of the mountain. There she saw a large field where thick grasses grew like tears of an unseen sadness, and tall trees, like those which had raised her, stretched skyward. Silence spoke to the trees, and they agreed to do what she asked. With great effort and much grunting, they pulled their roots from the ground and moved to the farthest edge of the field, and there settled themselves back into the earth. Now Silence could see the flat stones hidden among the grasses. With a scythe, she cut the grasses from around one stone and brushed the dirt from its face. The stone started to glow, a pink as gentle and soft as a first kiss. She laid the palm of a hand on the stone and whispered, "I came back, I came back." She felt the warmth of a stone smile and wondered if it was her mother or father. The next morning, the ironmaker brought his wife and daughters, while the drum maker came with 3 sons, and the basket maker came with her 4 daughters. Soon the entire village was helping, and the field was quickly cleared. The flat stones shone hard like love that had been tested and prevailed. Then Silence spoke. "I was sent back here to save yesterday." She began opening out her arms as if to embrace the flat stones that now seemed to be pulsing with life. Here lie your parents and mine from yesterday, so old you do not remember their names or their lives. They became angry because they did not like being forgotten. You cannot have today without yesterday. You may forget yesterday, but it always remembers you. Tonight we will remember all the yesterdays with music and dancing and delicious food. That afternoon, the drum maker and his sons went through the village, their hands coaxing sounds of joy from the drums. With pots of food on their head, the people followed the drummers up the mountain, dancing. Some took out cane fifes and gourd rattles, and when the people reached the top, they danced around the field and among the stones in a long line, holding each other's hands. When night told sun to go to sleep, torches were lit. Lion opened his mouth, and a roar so beautiful leapt from his throat that it turned into silver birds that took flight. Elephant raised her trunk and trumpeted a call that sounded like the stars were laughing. While Monkey sat high in a tree, gobbling food she had stolen from the villagers. Then dark red lights rose from the flat stones like lost memories happy to have been found. The lights rippled languidly. Sorry, I'm not going to get that word. Like slow-moving snakes, changing into yellows and blues and greens and oranges. They wove themselves around each other into braids and then stretched out until they circled the people of the village, holding them in an embrace as gentle as eternity. Slowly, the lights faded back into the stones, and there was only the night and stillness. Silence watched from the edge of the field, glad now that she had come back. Just as she started to wonder what she should do next, she felt herself being gently lifted onto the soft, broad-leaf branch of a tree. It was Thunder Snow. He carried her to another place where yesterday longed for today. And in the trees of the forest near the village, yellow pine needles became green, and the old trees sang new songs. When the people returned to the village, they realized that they had not seen Silence. They wanted to ask her to forgive them and to thank her for the blessing of yesterday. But she knew, and from that time on, the people remembered.
Thank you, Michael, so much. That was awesome, and what beautiful illustrations in the book. At this time, we are going to actually sing with the children all the way through 3 times, for the first time, maybe in a long time, This Little Light of Mine. Jerry, you should be unmuted.
Light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere
Amazing. Jerry, thank you so much. And just so everybody knows, Jerry was not even supposed to be here this weekend. He was supposed to be traveling, and he was kind enough to volunteer to come back to us and give us this beautiful music. So if we all can, I call these sparkles where we're from, so if we can give Jerry some sparkles. So at this time, Colin, come here, buddy. This is our time for our virtual milestones. So I was asked a lot of questions about how we were going to do our milestones. And what we'd like to do at this time is use our technology, use paper, right, Colin got us a bowl of water right here, and Colin, can you show some of your stones? We have all this sea glass and beautiful stones that he has ready. So however each of you needs to and can share, feel free to use the chat window to share publicly, or if you want to hold it up on a piece of paper and hold it up to your webcam, however you want to do that. We're just going to let Jerry play a song and take some time to share our milestones in whatever way, whether silent or publicly, you'd care for. So Jerry, I'm going to unmute you one more time. Unmute my. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Jerry. And thank you all so much for sharing. And happy birthday, Annie. I think we need to celebrate the joys that we have right now. And I will say this is by far my joy today. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Please take the time as you are able to scroll through the chat window and read the beautiful things that people were able to share. Anybody that needs any additional, continue to share your joys and your concerns and your milestones in the chat window throughout, because it's just a different way of us being able to do that. So at this time, what I'd like to do is we have been working with Jim Russell to talk about Share the Plate, the Well Spouse Association that he works with for a very long time. And we decided we were not going to take that away this week, that we wanted to make sure that we gave the time to Jim and to talk through Share the Plate. So what I'm going to do is find you, Jim, and here, and I'm going to take you off mute. And I'm going to ask if everybody can find Jim in the scroll of all these many beautiful windows. Jim is going to share his story with us. Jim, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Very good. Well, good morning and welcome, everyone. My name is James Russell, and I've been a member of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury for, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years. And today I humbly request that our Pass the Plate donation go to the Well Spouse Association. The Well Spouse Association, or WSA, is a peer support network of partner and spousal caregivers, where the ill partner has a long-term chronic illness or disability and requires total care. My personal experience led me to this network. My wife, Hannah, had multiple sclerosis for 18 years and was in a wheelchair for transport most of that time. She couldn't get herself up out of bed, walk, bathe, or toilet herself, and in the final years I fed her because she couldn't hold a fork or a spoon. I was completely lost. I had to scramble to hire day caregivers for her, which would allow me to leave home and go to work to pay our mounting bills. To say that these were trying times for such a young, newlywed couple who had just moved into their first home is an understatement. Then I found the Well Spouse Association, a peer support network of partner and spousal caregivers. They saved my life. Through local Well Spouse meetings, online chats, and conferences, I met, for the very first time, people who were going through the same experiences as me. From them, I received support and validation, help and encouragement to continue my role as husband and caregiver. Now, Well Spouse needs our help. They need to pay for a tiny staff at the office to write our newsletter, Mainstay, to help set up support groups, to keep the lights on as we work to get the word out that when one is sick, two need help. Years after my dear wife Hannah passed away, I continue to give back to this wonderful organization. We jokingly say Well Spouse is an organization you never want to belong to until you have to, and then you are most grateful. The Well Spouse Association is here for you too, should you find yourself in this unimaginable situation. You may go to their website, wellspouse.org, to learn more. Thank you for sending your Pass the Plate donation, following the instructions on the screen. And lastly, I wish everyone health and calm-centeredness as we get through these challenging times together. Please join me in the congressional offering response. In the spirit of compassion and service, we dedicate these, our offerings.
So while Jerry plays a short number, we felt you could take this time to do one of a few things. You could go off screen and send a check to UU Danbury. And remember, this is share the plate. That means half goes to UU Danbury and half will go to the Well Spouse Association. The address is on the screen. Please note WSA in the check area, or you can go to uudanbury.org and click on the Give Online button in the top, for you it's this way, right-hand corner. Also, go to your Simple Give app if you use that as well on your mobile device, and you can select one and mention today's service in the notes in the comment section when you do that. So we'll just listen to a short number. For somebody that wants to do it right away, we'll keep this screen up and listen to Jerry play us some fabulous music. Thank you, Jerry. So at this time, before we introduce Diane for our wonderful sermon on knowing yourself through knowing your ancestors, let's sing one song to show her the welcome that we have. And we know this song. This one, you probably don't even need to see it on the screen, but feel free to sing along and I will mute so you do not have to hear me. Thank you, Jerry. Go ahead.
Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worship, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worship, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worship, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I am trying to get to Diane right now. And Diane, we'd like to welcome you and thank you so much for being with us today on our first ever virtual sermon.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is a fabulous experience. I'm so glad that UU Danbury decided to do this. It's going to be my first live online sermon, so we're doing a lot of firsts this weekend. And my subject is knowing yourself through knowing your ancestors. For those of you who don't know me, maybe we haven't met. I'm a 20-plus year member of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Norwich, Connecticut, and throughout my time there, I've had the good fortune to have help discovering who I am, knowing myself as I was and who I was becoming, in addition to being gently and sometimes not so gently challenged to live up to my potential. I became a member of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Norwich after being invited to attend Kwanzaa ceremonies at the church by a neighborhood elder by the name of Lottie B. Scott. During my time at UUCN, I've heard speakers from many different paths, heard some beautiful classical music like some of what we've heard this morning, and I've learned a lot. My family history with religion was not the easiest one. My mother was a disaffected Baptist and wanted little to do with organized church or indeed any religion at the time. My father, I now know, was following a non-traditional path at the time. I remember vividly him praying in front of a 7-day glass candle similar to this one that I have on my desk in the basement of our home. We learned very early on as kids not to touch the items on Daddy's altar and never blow out the candles. It's of particular sadness to me that we lost him to a stroke when I was only 9 years old. I never got to ask him about his practice or indeed much of anything about his upbringing and his early life, which helps to drive my journey to this very day. The UU Church taught me about the 7 principles of the UU faith, and 3 of them in particular resonated with me. I loved the first principle regarding the inherent worth and dignity of all people. It meant that I had worth and dignity that I didn't have to earn. It was mine by virtue of my birth. The second principle, exercising justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, felt like an oasis when compared to the racial tensions I'd grown up with. I experienced the lack of commitment to this principle when people treated my family and I differently just because of the color of our skin, and human compassion could be hidden away or lost due to stereotypes. The fourth principle, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, was evident in my interactions with other members of the UU faith who encouraged me in my search. I am, unfortunately, the last living member of my immediate family. Finding out who my ancestors were became more important to me as the years rolled by. Some years ago, I attended a fundraiser for Carol Moseley Braun during her run for President of the United States, when I saw a lady across the room that could have been my father's twin sister, but who was a stranger to me. We had no idea he had any siblings. What she reignited in me was a desire to know more about my family. I had a good amount of information about my mother's side of the family, but knew almost nothing about my father's family. Knowing who your ancestors were, about their lives, their struggles, and their victories can help you to understand who you are. I know, in a very general sense, the difficulties faced by Africans during the slave trade and the horrible conditions they had to endure. What that tells me is that they had deep reserves of strength and that their indomitable spirits live on in me. I grew up fighting against injustice, related more to my faith's principle about the inherent worth and dignity of every person. It's also a part of my DNA. My ancestors fought for their lives, for their dignity, and their freedom. They suffered the loss of their culture and language, the loss of connections to family and heritage, and were forced to live with and work beside people that they didn't know, but with whom they formed bonds based on that shared experience. In 2017, I started seeing information and stories about a new type of DNA analysis that promised the possibility of finding out what specific tribe in Africa an individual was related to. I submitted my DNA for the African Ancestry DNA test, and it was discovered that I am genetically related to the Fula people, spelled F-U-L-A, who live in the Republic of Guinea-Bissau. Learning more about the Fula and their strengths, challenges, and their lives has made me even more proud of my ancestry. I feel less alone than I had previously, and I have a new focus for my ancestor veneration. Finding our ancestors can help us recognize influences and strengths from multiple regions and groups. For me, that means religious and cultural fragments from Africa, from Protestantism, and Native American beliefs. There existed specific cultural and spiritual resonances between Africans and Native Americans, including connection to and reverence for nature, including the wind, the moon, the rivers, the ocean, the forest, and living creatures. The African spiritual and cultural influences were significant in the formation of early African American culture. Differences in climate, in dress patterns, and living quarter organization between the colder northern regions and the warmer southern regions of slave territory also had an impact on local spiritual development and practices. Local plants that were part of a local pharmacopoeia and the landscape were different than previous experience on the continent of Africa and within separate regions of the US. Common and essential components of traditional African religion that were carried over and preserved among the African ethnic groups in the American slave population included ritual water immersion, attributed by mainstream religions as baptism, ancestor reverence, and the use of herbal and naturopathic medicine. It can be difficult to document ritual practices within a community. In my specific case, my family members couldn't pass down the knowledge because so many of them have deceased. Many of the community, family, and individual practices were not written down, but instead transferred through oral histories and mentorship. An elder teaching a younger community member the rules and procedures. Certain practices have been passed on through the generations, and one way to continue the practice is to sit down with a family elder and ask them questions. Turn on a tape recorder so you can listen without worrying about taking notes. If you've got a smartphone, they generally come with an application that will let you record voice memos, and those can be very powerful clues and specific instruction as to ancestral practices. Don't wait like I did until it becomes interesting to do this. Do it now while you still have access to your ancestors, and you can both honor them and deepen your relationship with them by asking them about those things. I have an ancestor altar set up in my home that represents to me the connection to my ancestors, both known and unknown. Photos and personal items belonging to my ancestors are placed with reverence, and I regularly speak to them, invoking their energy and their spirit and their positive influences in my life. If you spend any more time around me, you'll occasionally hear me refer to my mother as reaching down from her cloud to smack me in the back of the head when I mess up. I'm all about my ancestors. And if your elders had a bookshelf, a curio cabinet, or something similar where they kept treasured photos and items that were kept safe away from us kids that might break them when I was younger, that space can function as an altar, whether they called it that or not, and a focus for your practice of venerating your ancestors. Calling out the names of my ancestors also helps me to invoke their energy, and I feel closer to them when I do this. A stronger connection on an emotional and a psychic level. You and I can discover and carry forward the strength and perseverance of our ancestors and their work to be worthy of their pride and their love. I feel a strong sense of responsibility to the brilliant, strong, committed, and spiritual people who came before me and who passed along more than just memories. They left me a foundation that surpasses the physical. May you feel a positive connection to your elevated and honored ancestors. May you learn the lessons of your challenged ancestors and retain the wisdom to avoid repeating their mistakes. May you discover deep wells of strength, honor, and love, and may your journey be more rewarding than your wildest dreams. Amen. Ashe. Blessed be. I'm going to close this service with a spoken meditation entitled A Survival Meditation, written by the Reverend Nathan C. Walker. I'm going to do a little paraphrasing of the words here, and I want to begin and end the meditation with the sound of my singing bowl, which I have beside me here. Breathing in, I am aware of my pain and sadness. Breathing out, I am aware that I am not my pain or my sadness. Breathing in, I am aware of my past mistakes. Breathing out, I am aware that I am not my past mistakes. Breathing in, I am aware of my anger. Breathing out, I am aware that I am not my anger. Breathing in, I am aware of my despair. Breathing out, I am aware that I am not my despair. Breathing in, I am aware that peace is within my reach. Breathing out, I am aware that I am worthy of peace. Breathing in, I am aware of love. Breathing out, I am aware that I am worthy of love. Breathing in, I am aware of joy that lifts my heart. Breathing out, I am aware that I am an agent of joy. Breathing in, I am aware of hope for the future. Breathing out, I am aware that I am an agent of hope for my future and for the future of our world. Breathing in, I am aware.
Spirit of light, come unto me. My heart, all the stirrings of compassion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the air, giving life shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of light, come to me, come to me.
Thank you, Diane, and thank you, Jerry, for that beautiful sermon, the beautiful music. At this time, hey Colin, come here. At this time, we are going to extinguish our chalice with Michael. I'm going to unmute you, Michael. And let's say our closing words together.
All right. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again.
Thank you, Michael. And Jerry, you are still unmuted, thankfully. Namaste and thank you. There's one last song for us, More Love.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
Our benediction this morning is found at number 564 in the Gray Hymnal, and it's titled, Love is Not Concerned, written by the great Alice Walker. Love is not concerned with whom you pray or where you slept the night you ran away from home. Love is concerned that the beating of your heart should kill no one.
With that, enjoy our music with Jerry. Please share any closing thoughts in the chat window if you'd like. And when you're ready, please reach out to each other by phone, by FaceTime, and continue to connect, though not physically, socially. Thank you, everybody, for joining today.